Stämningen i Jerusalem är skärrad. Militär och polis har order att slå en järnring runt de palestinska stadsdelarna. Orsaken är en rad blodiga attacker mot israeler den senaste tiden. Övervakningskameror visar otäcka scener. Människor huggs ner på öppen gata. Som här vid en busskur i Jerusalem. Gärningsmannen skjuts till slut av en civil polis. Knivöverfallen verkar vara inspirerade av texter på nätet. Med uppmaningen att ta en kniv och gå till attack. Många har gjort just det. De är förvånansvärt unga, en var bara 13 år gammal. Det har varit mer än 20 överfall de senaste veckorna, de flesta med kniv, några med skjutvapen. 8 israeler har dödats. Våldet började vid det judiska nyåret efter ihållande rykten om att Israel tänkte ta över Al-Aqsa-moskén på den heligaste platsen i Jerusalem. En kampanj på nätet, Rädda Al-Aqsa, sprider den informationen. Israel förnekar alla sådana planer. Men trots det har protesterna spritt sig till Västbanken och Gaza. Och ett 30-tal palestinier har dödats av israelisk militär. Hälften av dem var inblandade i attackerna, hävdar israelerna. Från palestinskt håll talar man om avrättningar av palestinska ungdomar. Särskilt en 13-åring, Ahmed Manasra.
ولن نستسلم لمنطق القوة الغاشمة وسياسات الاحتلال والعدوان التي تمارسها الحكومة الإسرائيلية وقطعان مستوطنيها الذين يمارسون الإرهاب ضد شعبنا ومقدساتنا وبيوتنا وأشجارنا وإعدام أطفالنا بالدم البارد كما فعلوا مع هذا الطفل أحمد مناصرة.
Ett uttalande som möts av israelisk ilska. 13-åringen finns vid liv på israeliskt sjukhus, visade sig. Han var inblandad i en attack mot israeler och blev påkörd.
President Mahmoud Abbas accused Israel of putting to death, executing an innocent Palestinian boy. First of all, he's not dead, he's alive. Secondly, he's not innocent. He tried to kill, murder, knife to death an innocent Israeli youngster, 13 years old, riding a bicycle.
Många är rädda att den här våldsspiralen är början på ett nytt uppror, en tredje intifada. Men det finns stora skillnader, menar bedömare. Självmordsbomberna har bytts ut mot enklare vapen som köksknivar och gärningsmännen verkar agera på egen hand. Men i sociala medier hyllas de unga knivmördarna som hjältar, som martyrer. Och begravningarna avlöser varandra.
Isaac Bachman is the Israeli ambassador to Sweden. Welcome to Agenda.
Good evening.
How would you say that the recent wave of terror attacks has affected the Israeli public and society?
Of course, it's a very unpleasant, ongoing situation, but I think that the Israeli public responds with a lot of responsibility and preventive attention, and we are very much lucky to have such a public that is aware to this risks and very active on that, and thanks to that there were additional attacks that were prevented.
What's your explanation to these attacks?
Well, I think it is something that comes on a very fertile soil of ongoing incitement by the Palestinian Authority, let alone Hamas in Gaza. This is an ongoing thing. You know, before the state of Israel has been established, the Palestinians were engaged with the Germans, with Hitler, to work with them on the final solution to the Jewish problem if the Germans would arrive to Israel. So this is an ongoing thing. It started way before any war against Israel before Israel existed, and it goes on. There's no change. It's a basic hatred to Jews and later to Israel. So now this round of violence is based on a very extreme hate speech against Israel by Islamist leaders, suggesting that Israel is going to, we have seen it in this footage, Israel is going to change the status quo, ruin, damage the Temple Mount. Those are, we have said it from the Prime Minister downwards. It's nonsense. It doesn't exist. The purpose is to create violence for the sake of violence and to press Israel and to terrorize. And this is what we see. And the only thing I have to say about this footage is it's unfortunate that the world generally looks at it, and the case in Sweden is even more so, as attacks and not terrorism, and the perpetrators are not terrorists.
I said
those
terror
are
attacks.
Well, I didn't look. I looked at the footage.
Okay.
The footage
let me just ask
refers
you,
to this as attacks.
Okay. Let me just ask you. The U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, he's going to shortly to the region. He strongly condemns the recent attacks, but he also says that there is a background to the violence. Let's see what he's saying.
There's been a massive increase in settlements over the course of the last years. Now you have this violence because there's a frustration that is growing, and a frustration among Israelis who don't see any movement.
He's saying that the massive increase in settlements has created a frustration, which is one explanation to the violence. Is Mr. Kerry correct?
Well, I think in this case, the reason is different. As I suggested, this is a religious inflammatory speech, including by the Palestinian leader. You know, if you look at the perpetrators...
Has it got nothing to do with the occupation and the settlements?
Well, this is at the very back of the background. This present round of violence is a result, as the footage suggested very well, of Islamic inflammatory speech against Israel, and to bring about the youngsters and the masses to go and terrorize, and this is what they do. If you look at the perpetrators, you will see, according to the profile, who's perpetrating. Those are not desperate people. Those are not people that are thinking about occupation. One of them, the one with the car, with the terrible running over people, then going out and stabbing, is employed by an Israeli telecommunications company, and the car belongs to the company. He works for the company, and he uses this car. He has a nice salary, a job, everything is nice.
Can't he be frustrated with the occupation and the settlements anyhow?
He can, but
even if he has a...
He can, but why didn't it happen 2 years ago? And this is not the only one. This is not the profile of those that are desperate. This is the profile of people that were instigated and brought to think in religious, Islamist, extremist terms.
Can I ask you, Mr. Ambassador, alongside with the Israeli victims, more than 30 Palestinians have been killed during the last weeks, about half of them after trying to commit acts of terror, but the other half in connection with demonstrations. Has there been a use of excessive force from Israeli forces?
Well, I said once to the Swedish radio that I reject the question. It was on a different ground. And I reject also this question. So I was asked at the time, what is the Jewish contribution to anti-Semitism in Sweden? I reject this question because we are a nation in a defensive, terrible operation against ongoing dozens of terror acts against Israel. The question is how to stop terrorism. And this is what we are engaged to turn the whole thing into make a kind of a symmetry in between perpetrators of terrorism and those that defend themselves. It is an unfair, unjust, and I don't think that it brings about any good results to nations that are preparing themselves, like Sweden and other nations in Europe, to fight against this terrorism. Terrorism should be fought, condemned, and we don't see that, not in Sweden.
But I'm just asking you about violence from the other side.
Well, violence from the other side is a preventive violence. This is not violence.
But there's been violence from, like, terror violence also from settlers against civilian Palestinians.
Well, the difference is that when there is such a violence, Israel is a democracy, and we have a system that deals with it, and they are taken to court. And the difference is, if you compare with the Palestinians, is the Palestinians take them to glory. Those are saints. Just, you know, inflammatory speech. Just let me quote what Mahmoud Abbas said
Very
less than a month, very briefly. Al-Aqsa Mosque is ours. The Jews, have no right to desecrate it with their filthy feet, okay? We bless every drop of blood spilled for Jerusalem. This is clean and pure blood, and so on and so forth. This is a Palestinian president talking to his people on national TV, and I don't think it brings about any tranquility to this region if this is the way that the leaders are leading their own people.
Okay, Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And I will turn now